This winter, Europe plunges into the new dark ages, quote unquote. Of course, we're talking about the energy crisis. Right now, all eyes are on Europe because things are starting to get really crazy over there. And this is by Michael Snyder on Collective Spark. Now, I did upload yesterday, the day before, a very weird interview that the German economic minister had with a woman interviewing him. And he revealed that he didn't have any basics of economics 101. He says they're going to close down companies, corporations, but the companies will not go bankrupt. I mean, that's ridiculous. Every company has to have a going concern. It's the going concern principle that you learn in Accounting 101. If there is no going concern, that means the company is dead, it's bankrupt. Now, going back to this, how many of those this is going to be never before happened in history, I would say. Now, he says, could you imagine being sent to prison for 3 years if you dared to set your thermostat above 66 degrees Fahrenheit? As you will see below, this is a proposed regulation that's actually being considered in a major European country, Germany right now. Oh, well, no, there's more. I think there's Sweden. Anyway, if you have not been paying much attention to what's happening in Europe, you need to wake up. Natural gas in Europe is 7 times more expensive than it was early last year. And that's because of course, what's happening in Ukraine. Over the past few decades, the Europeans foolishly allowed themselves to become extremely dependent on gas from Russia. In fact, more than 55% of the natural gas that Germany uses normally comes from Russia. But now the conflict has changed everything. Europe is facing an extremely harsh winter of severe shortages, mandatory rationing, and absolutely insane heating bills. Now, that's assuming that people will be able to pay them. I don't think they'll be able to pay them. It's either heating or eating. Okay? And now we know that I live in Athens, Greece, so I can go without heating in the winter. I just put on more, I wrap my head in a scarf and drink a lot of tea as I hold my warm cup, to unfreeze my fingers, but and wear something warmer. But you can't do that in Northern Europe. It's just too cold. Now things are going to get very cold and very dark all over Europe in the months ahead, and those Europeans that choose to rebel against the new restrictions that are being implemented could literally find themselves in prison. Switzerland is considering jailing anyone who heats their homes above 19 degrees Celsius for up to 3 years if the country is forced to ration gas due to the Ukraine conflict. Well, 19 degrees Celsius, okay, that's not bad. You can wear an extra sweater for heaven's sakes. The country could also give fines to those who violate the proposed new regulations. Speaking to Blink, Marcus Porndl, who is a spokesman for the Federal Department of Finance, explained that the rate for fines on a daily basis could start at 30 Swiss francs. That's about $30. 19 degrees Celsius is just 66 degrees Fahrenheit. If you live in Europe, prepare to dress very warmly this winter. Some may be anticipating that they will just use portable radiant heaters to keep things toasty, but apparently using such heaters would not be allowed, quote unquote, under the new regulations that Switzerland is considering. Blake also reported that radiant heaters would not be allowed and saunas and swimming pools would have to stay cold. So this is serious. We've never seen anything like this before, and the longer the conflict in Ukraine stretches on, the worse the energy crisis in Europe will become. An end to the era of cheap energy also means that a severe economic slowdown is in the cards, and this is already starting to show up in the numbers. Europe is showing signs of heading into a recession, as multiple economic surveys show that regions, services, and manufacturing sectors slowing down, while a large number of the continent's citizens are struggling to cope with rising prices. The S&P Global Eurozone Composite Output Index fell to an 18-month low in August at 48.9, according to September 5th news release. The Eurozone private sector moved further into contradictory territory in August. Both services and manufacturing output fell for the month. Of course, what we have witnessed so far is just the beginning. Things are likely to get really bad this winter. In fact, German Economic Minister Robert Habeck, this is a guy that doesn't know anything about economics and accounting, Habeck has publicly admitted that some parts of the German economy will, quote, simply stop producing for the time being, end quote. Wow. And the truth is that this is really starting to happen. In yet another truly astonishing announcement that demonstrates the desperation of this hour, German steelmaker ArcelorMittal, one of the largest steel producing facilities in Europe, has shuttered operations due to high energy prices. Quote, with gas and electricity prices increasing tenfold within just a few months, we are no longer competitive in a market that is 25% supplied by imports, end quote, said CEO Rainer Blaschek. In other words, people, instead of buying local or European, they're going to start buying, you guessed it, Chinese. This comes after announced closures of aluminum smelters, copper smelters, and ammonia production plants over the last few weeks. Ammonia, necessary for fertilizer, is now 70% offline in the EU, the European Union. Many more factories will be forced to shut down in the coming months. Deeply alarmed by what is taking place, 40 CEOs from Europe's metal industries have jointly issued an open letter in which they warn that their companies are facing an, quote, existential threat to our future, end quote. They won't be able to continue. Okay, they're going into bankruptcy, obviously. Quote, ahead of Friday's emergency summit, the business leaders of Europe's non-ferrous metal industry are writing together to raise the alarm about Europe's worsening energy crisis and its existential threat to our future. Our sector has already been forced to make unprecedented curtailments in the last 12 months. We are deeply concerned that the winter ahead could deliver a decisive blow to many of our operations, and we call on EU and member state leaders to take emergency action to preserve their strategic electricity-intensive industries and prevent permanent job losses. 50% of the EU's aluminum and zinc capacity has already been forced offline due to the power crisis, as well as significant curtailments in silicon and ferroalloy production, and further impacts felt across copper and nickel sectors. In the last month, several companies have had to announce indefinite closures, and many more are on the brink ahead of a life-or-death winter for many operations. Producers face electricity and gas costs over 10 times higher than last year, far exceeding the sales price for their products. We know from experience that once a plant is closed, it very often becomes a permanent situation, as reopening implies significant uncertainty and cost. This is what an economic collapse looks like. Things are already so bad that scientists are even considering shutting down the Large Hadron Collider. Europe's energy crisis is being felt by everyone, including the scientists working deep underground in Switzerland at the Large Hadron Collider, CERN. European Organization for Nuclear Research, better known as CERN, is even considering taking its particle accelerators offline. This is due to the accelerator's high energy demands and the organization's desire to keep the region's electricity grid stable. So at least one good thing could potentially come out of the crisis, but overall the months ahead are going to be an immensely uncomfortable time for Europe. As conditions become tighter and tougher, ordinary Europeans are going to become angrier and angrier. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg is openly admitting that there will be civil unrest, quote unquote, but he insists that Europeans must make sacrifices in order to support Ukraine. And Vladimir Putin's energy blackmail over Europe could lead to civil unrest this winter, NATO Secretary General warned. Stoltenberg acknowledged that winter will be hard as families and businesses feel the crunch of soaring energy prices and costs of living in the coming months. Writing in the Financial Times, the boss of Western Security Alliance said that it is worth paying the price to support Ukraine. Eventually there will be tremendous civil unrest in major cities in the United States as well. We're still only in the very early stages of this new global energy crisis, and it's going to turn all of our lives upside down. Meanwhile, we're also plunging into a horrific global food crisis. As I detailed a few days ago, even the head of the UN is admitting that there will be multiple famines in 2023. Life as we know it is about to change. Right now, all eyes are on Europe because they're starting to get really crazy over time over there. Europe is going to descend into the new dark ages this winter, and the entire world will experience extreme pain as a result. Views expressed in the article or opinions of the author do not necessarily reflect views of Collective Spark. And it's finally here, Michael's new book, 7-Year Apocalypse. About the author, my name is Michael Schneider, and my brand new book, 7-Year Apocalypse, is now available on Amazon. In addition to my new book, I've written 5 others that are available on Amazon. Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, Get Prepared Now, and Living a Life That Really Matters. By purchasing the books, you help to support the work that my wife and I are doing, and by giving it to others, you help to multiply the impact that we're having on people all over the world. I've published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the Most Important News, and the articles that I publish on those sites are republished on dozens of other prominent websites all over the globe. I always freely, happily allow others to republish my articles on their websites, but I also ask that they include this about the author section with each article. The material contained in the article is for general information purposes only, and the reader should consult licensed professionals before making any legal, business, financial, or health decisions. I encourage you to follow me on social media on Facebook and Twitter, and any way that you can share these articles with others is a great help. During these very challenging times, people will need to hope more than ever before. It's our goal to share the gospel of Jesus Christ with as many people as we possibly can. And this is on Collective Spark. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.